So today's video is going to be a little bit different because I'm going to be speaking about my experiences of Hurricane Ian. Now this came towards the end of my trip, so if you are watching my current Disney World and Universal vlog series, you won't be seeing any of this for a few months, but I thought I would show you what it is like to be in Orlando during a hurricane, what preparations to take, my personal experience, and answer some questions that I've had from people about what it was like. I'm going to start by showing you the days leading up to the hurricane and then what it was like during the hurricane and the aftermath. Now, of course, in the lead up, it is very unpredictable. You don't quite know what direction it's going to go in, if it's going to intensify or drop down in intensity. So there was a lot of uncertain factors. So in the lead up to this, you may see that I'm a bit like jittery or nervous energy, and I think it's because you just don't know what to experience. I've never been in a hurricane before. So although I was trying to remain upbeat, you probably will see a bit of nervous energy in the days leading up to it, but I was very lucky to speak to a lot of locals who were telling me what to expect, how to prepare, and that was so helpful. So let's dive into my personal Hurricane Ian experience while staying at Cabana Bay at Universal, and then stay tuned because at the end I'm going to be answering some of the questions I've had from you all about what to expect during a hurricane. So I thought I'd give you a little storm update as well. So I've been keeping an eye on the weather, and the hurricane is coming towards the west coast, and it looks like at the moment it may stay in the sea, but west coast areas may still have hurricane kind of weather. Inland is more likely to be a heavy tropical storm. There still could be flooding, there still could be like outages of electricity and stuff. Oh my god, I'm going to walk down some stairs, okay. So I'm still going to keep an eye on things because at the moment it's still a few days out. It's now Monday, it's predicted to hit probably Wednesday or Thursday in Orlando. So we'll see how it goes, but it looks like it might not be as bad as first predicted, but they still don't quite know. So we'll just see how it goes. I think when it comes to things like this, you've got no control, so you've just got to let what happens happen. So I've just popped to the supermarket and I'm actually going to a Publix. I've heard loads of Floridians talk about Publix. I've done Walmart early in the trip, so I thought, let's head down to a Publix, let's go see what they're like. First thing first, snack pretzels. Lots of different flavours, kale chips. So I've been super impressed with Publix. It's really nice layout, lots and lots of products. I've managed to get a few supplies. Only problem, no water. I think that's going to be a problem in all supermarkets as people prepare for the bad weather. So I've got some vitamin water instead. So hopefully it'll be okay. So update, Universal and Disney World have both announced that Wednesday and Thursday they are going to be shut. So the next 2 days I am going to be in my hotel room. Totally makes sense, you can understand, because not only will the conditions not be nice to be in, but of course you want the cast members, the team members to be able to make sure that their homes, their family, everyone is safe and secure. So it absolutely makes sense to be closing. So I'm going to carry on for a little bit at Universal, fit in as much as possible, and then I think I'm going to get something from City Walk for dinner, and I'm definitely getting some voodoo donuts to take back to the hotel room for breakfast because I'm going to be locked in eating my supplies for the next couple of days. So it's also dawned on me, I've just walked past a shop with Halloween Horror Nights merch and I'm like, oh my god, I will not be going to Halloween Horror Nights. My first Halloween Horror Nights will be hurricaned out. So as you can see, it is super duper quiet at the moment. The wind is starting to pick up. It's still overcast, we haven't had any rain yet. I think it is coming soon. So I'm going to head out of the park now. I'm going to City Walk to get some food. I don't quite know what to get. NBC Grill, people really recommend the smokehouse burger, and I kind of feel in the mood for a burger. I'm thinking have something quite filling tonight because I'm going to be surviving on snacks for a couple of days. So might go to the NBC Grill. So I am gonna head out of Universal now and say bye-bye, ta-ta, and hope to see you real soon, hopefully on Friday, and you won't have suffered too much damage. So I'm here in the NBC Grill. I've come here for some dinner. I'm gonna get the Beyond Smokehouse. I've heard it's amazing, so I'm very excited to eat it. It was very dramatic. I sat down and everyone's phones in the restaurant started beeping, and I was like, oh my god, what is happening? And we've had a little alert come up. So I've taken a screenshot, and it's just an alert to say there is extreme weather coming, be prepared. Yeah, I'm glad I'm gonna have a proper meal now, grab myself some donuts for breakfast, always a treat, and then hunker down. Really tasty. So I am now back in the room. As I left Voodoo Donuts, it started raining, but actually it was always meant to rain today, unrelated to the hurricane, and it was supposed to start about 10 a.m. So I was so lucky, it's about 6:30 or something now, to have had the whole day in Universal without any rain. So I've managed to get so much done. Nearly all the rides that I wanted to do, I've managed to go on today, which is perfect. I bought my Halloween Horror Nights tickets from Attraction Tickets rather than directly through from Universal. So I might contact them, see if they will give you a refund. So I've got a Portland cream, a Voodoo Man, an ODB, which is Oreo and peanut butter, and just a classic chocolate donut. And these are all vegan. They do loads of vegan ones. So it's really fantastic because you have loads of options there. On my way home, everyone had boxes, so I think everyone was doing the same, either like for snacks or breakfasts, because we're gonna be in our rooms. So I love that everyone was like, Voodoo Donuts is the one, and they are absolutely correct. I don't know if the hotel amenities like the restaurant and things will be open. I did think maybe you'd get a note under your door. Maybe in the next couple of days we will. But I'm assuming if they don't say anything, then you probably can use those things. But if there is any changes to how the hotels are operating, they might let you know. So it's the next morning. I did have a message on the phone from the hotel just to say that the pools are closed and the parks are closed, but no more real information about what was going to be available at the hotel. It's a little bit stormy, but okay at the moment. The next 2 days I'm probably most likely just going to be in my room. The storm is coming. The trees are starting to blow about more, so you can see that the wind is picking up. At the moment, I think the hurricane hasn't hit land yet. Unfortunately, it has upgraded. It's now category 4 for the coastal areas. I think it's like 1 mile an hour away from being a category 5. So it's much more intense than anticipated. So really hoping that everyone's on the coast can stay safe and secure, and maybe they've been evacuated. But I can't imagine the stress of knowing it's coming, and how do you secure your whole house and all your belongings and make sure you can also get to safety. Like, it's so stressful. So I'm really hoping that it isn't as bad as it could be. Yeah, it does seem to be ramping up more and more as time goes. Here in Orlando, where you're in Central Florida at the moment, it's kind of stormy weather, but not anywhere near as bad as I was anticipating. I think this evening we will start to feel the effects here, and tomorrow will be the big day. So I'm going to show you out the window so you can get an idea of what it's currently like. So I'm actually on the 9th floor of Beachside, the tower at Cabana Bay, and as you can see, the trees are kind of swaying about a bit. Not really any rain at the moment. What's kind of cool is over here, if you can see that, that's the top of Hogwarts, and then you've got Rip Ride Rocket, Velocicoaster. So I have been able to see the rides from my view, although at the moment obviously the parks are shut. At the moment they haven't given us any information. So from the hotel we haven't had any updates about, can you leave the room? Can you not leave the room? Is the restaurant open? We haven't had any information. So I would say that's the one downside, because we're kind of blind. We don't know what's happening. I was wondering if maybe you'd have like a note put under the door, something like that, just to give you updates of what you should do. None so far, but maybe later on. So it is about 12:30 now. For a little while the rain did get quite bad. You're starting to see some of the palm fronds, is that what they're called? Fronds? From the trees have come down. But I think I'm going to head over to the lobby quickly just to see if you can get any food or drink, like what is on offer, and if there's any updates. It's still raining a little bit, but I think I might chance it and head over there. So as is always the way, the second I decided to go out, it started pouring with rain. There seems to be a brief pause in the rain, so I'm going to run over to the lobby now just to have a little look, see if there's any more information, maybe grab some more drink, some savoury food, and then head back here. At the moment it is a bit windy, a little bit rainy, but it is not too bad. There's lots of people out and about, and I think it's because we're all grabbing the opportunity to head out and get some stuff whilst we can. So I'm going to put the camera away and head over to the lobby and see if there's any more information. So it's not actually raining at all at the moment, which is great. It's a little reprise. There are like bits of leaves and stuff on the floor, but the storm really is going to hit tonight, Orlando. So this is just like the little beginning bit. If you can hear the trees blowing about, that's what you've got at the moment really. But it should be later tonight that we'll feel the full effect. As you can see, some leaves are coming down and it's shaking a lot, but not too bad. So as to be expected, the restaurant is quite busy at the moment because everyone's coming here to eat. So I'm going to see what they've got on. I'm assuming they'll have a limited menu, but we'll have a little look, and I also want to see in the lobby if they've got any information. So in the lobby they have got some activities for kids going on, the shops are open, restaurants, bars, everything seems open. Can't see any information, but I'm assuming it's just kind of, if the weather gets bad, stay in your room. So luckily in this restaurant you have multiple different stations and you can choose where you want to eat, and then they all have their individual queues. The staff are working so hard because there are so many people here and they're just constantly cooking, putting more food out. So big thanks to them for working so hard so that everyone can still eat. And yeah, I managed to get some drinks as well, so really stocked up now. So I've grabbed a little Starbucks, I've got a hot coffee. I'm gonna head back to the room now. It's been great to be able to actually have a meal, and like I say, the staff have been amazing. They're working so hard. It's great that everyone's kind of realising the situation and they're quite happy to wait however long it takes. So it's good to see everyone kind of coming together, and yeah, it's just super busy. And the great thing is, because a lot of the buildings are connected, people have the option to just be out of their room. I think once the storm gets worse, my building you won't be able to do that because we aren't connected. So it'd be nice to be out of the room for a little bit for now. So it's now about 3:30. The hurricane has just made landfall in the coastal part of Florida in the east, and it looks pretty intense over there, honestly. Like, some cars are already like flooded up to their roofs, so it's really intense. By the time it gets here, it would have dropped down massively. I think it's category 4 at the moment. I think it'll be about 1 at the moment. It's still raining and a bit windy, but it's kind of same as earlier. You know, if you visit Orlando between June and November, it is hurricane season, so there's always a chance that this could happen. But in all the times I've come to Florida, never had this happen. And I think usually as well, the hurricanes tend to go along the coasts and you get some bad weather in Florida, but the parks do open, things like that. But because with Ian, bloody Ian, he's actually coming through Orlando, that's why everything's closed this time. So there's a bit more disruption than usual. It's very interesting to be here during it, and it's just that thing of, as a tourist, you're very lucky. Although things might be closed, you're in a hotel, you are safe and you're fine. The thing that you worry about is the people that live here. Will their homes be impacted? Will they be impacted? And that's the worrying thing, of all the people that have had to evacuate, all the staff that are still running the hotels and working here. So you're just hoping that they'll all be okay and that hopefully their properties, everything will be undamaged, because as a tourist, like I say, you're lucky you're not impacted by any of that. But I can imagine it must be very stressful, especially if you've evacuated to here, not knowing what you're going to go home to and if there's been damage and stuff like that. So yeah, just hoping for everyone's sake that it isn't too bad, but it's definitely far more intense than they had predicted it originally to be. You can actually start to hear the wind now. You can see all the trees are now blowing about. So you can definitely see the storm is starting to rev up a little bit. It's about 4 p.m. now. It's still a long way from being anywhere near Orlando, so it will be very interesting to see how this progresses. Disney have now blacked out Friday the 30th for park pass reservations, which implies that possibly they are looking to be shut on Friday also. So if that's the case, I would imagine Universal will be the same. So we could be here a little bit longer than expected in the room. I think that does make sense because the storm is kind of meant to hit today, which is Wednesday, and Thursday, and I would imagine there's going to be some damage or debris to clean up, so it seems almost impossible that on Friday the parks would be ready to go. And I'm sure also, although everything's prepared and built to withstand hurricanes, I'm sure they do double check to make sure none of the rides are damaged, stuff like that. So it does seem to make sense that possibly they will be shut on Friday. It is unusual because obviously you don't plan the final days of your trip to be in your hotel room, but you know, this is something that can happen in Florida. You know it's something that can happen. And like I said before, as a tourist, you are in a really privileged position, as although your trip isn't going as you might have expected, you know that in your hotel you're safe, it's all fine, and you don't have to be worrying about what will be happening to my house, what will be happening to my belongings, will we be able to go back, will we have power. You're not having to worry about any of those things. So in the last half an hour, the storm has intensified quite a bit. It's very, very windy now and raining quite heavy. It's weird because I can actually see the wind. I've never ever experienced that before, but you can actually physically see the wind. But we are still many hours away from the hurricane being anywhere near Orlando. So I think it's going to be a very, very interesting night. The more intense the weather gets, the more you do feel a bit on edge because you're like, oh my gosh. And I know that actually all the hotels are perfectly safe and you're the best place you can be. Normally the hurricanes go up the coast and then Orlando might get some bad weather because of it. But this one's interesting because it's actually going to cut across Florida and Orlando's in the path of it. But yeah, same as before, the storm is picking up. You can definitely notice it. It's interesting because before you were kind of like, oh, like we're going to be in a hurricane and you don't know what to expect because it's not something you've ever experienced. And then the more intense it gets, the more scarier it starts to feel because I'm like, oh gosh, like this is the weather now, and you can hear the wind and even see the wind, and it's still hours and hours and hours away until it's anywhere near Orlando. So I think it will be a very interesting and probably quite intense night. Being from a country that does not get hurricanes, it's so interesting to see what it's like, but it's also interesting to see how efficient everything's done. Like yesterday in the parks, they were already tying things down, taking down like umbrellas, things that could be loose. So they were like instantly, and like here around the pool, the little like booth things that you get the towels from and return the towels to, they've all been tipped over so that they won't fall over. So it's almost like it's so well oiled and people know exactly what to do. Most of the Floridians you've talked to haven't been that worried. I think the past 24 hours that may have changed a little bit just because the storm is much more severe than anticipated. But of course in Orlando itself, it will not be as bad as it is on the coast. And I suppose if you've lived through it and you have a plan and you know what to do, you kind of know what to expect. So that is reassuring that they're not like, oh my God, you need to panic. They're just like, okay, it'll be like this. And you know, this is what you can expect. And it's really nice that they're giving you that advice. So to give you an idea, this is currently what it looks like outside. Quite a lot of rain, quite windy. Every now and then you get these gusts and you can hear it. Sometimes you can even see the wind, which is very interesting. But yeah, at the moment, it's not too bad. So it's about 6 p.m. now. Again, the storm is kind of, you can definitely see the wind has picked up quite a lot. When you get the gusts, you can really hear them against the window. You can kind of hear a little bit of creaking, things like that. But the room is very comfortable. I've been watching the news just to keep some updates. It does seem very, very intense on the coast. So in the next few hours, it will progress over here. I think they said it's about 200 miles wide, which is like wild. It's so incomprehensible. But this is a much bigger hurricane than kind of anticipated. So it's kind of interesting to see the updates, the progress, what's going on. I've been on social media catching up. Thank you everyone for sending messages, saying how I am. It's so, so kind of you. And it's been really nice to be able to chat with people. Probably soon I'll have something from my little snack stash that I've got for dinner. And then just carry on watching out to see what's going to happen. I think tonight will probably be quite restless. The past 2 nights I haven't slept very well. And I don't know if that's because in the back of your mind you have been anticipating this. So I feel like tonight it could be quite noisy, so you might be up and stuff. Hopefully it might be helpful if you come to Florida in the future and you happen to be here and a hurricane does happen, to kind of see what it's like, what the hotels do, things like that, because it is always something that can happen between June and November. I think people, because you never experienced it before, it can be quite nerve-wracking, like what's going to happen, what will we do? But hopefully I can give you some tips of what I've experienced, and that will help if you ever find yourself in this situation. So I've been charging all my devices, and this is my power bank, and I'm charging that just in case we do lose power, and then that way everything is fully charged, and I do have a power bank if necessary. Although I do think the hotels have generators, so hopefully that shouldn't be an issue. So I'm just sitting here in bed and the wind is increasing, and I wanted to try and capture, you can hear the building creak. And I think that's common, they have been talking about that on the telly. But it is a bit unnerving, not gonna lie. So they've just made an announcement on the telly to say that Hurricane Ian is now the 5th strongest hurricane in history in the US, which is wild. In the UK, of course, we hear about big hurricanes and you see the footage. And at the moment, it's kind of similar. I'm watching the footage of what's happening in the coasts and it is insane. The flooding is massive. If you have like a bungalow, they're already completely flooded. If you've got nowhere to go, cars are being swept away, like it's really frightening. But it's that thing of outside here at the moment, yes, it's a bit windy and rainy, but we have storms similar to that in the UK. So it doesn't quite feel real yet how scary this could be or how serious this could be, because it still feels like, oh, I'm watching it on telly on the news. So it is a few hours later. The wind has just started gusting quite strongly and the windows have been shaking, which has got me a bit worried. Like, I'm sure they're reinforced, they're not going to break. Yeah, when those gusts happen and everything shakes, it is frightening. I think when it hits here, it's going to be category 1, so I cannot even imagine what it must be like when it first hit and it was a category 4. I don't think I'm going to sleep much tonight because I think it's one of those things, there's like a nervous anticipation of what's to come, and I think you'll drift in and out of sleep, but I do not think I will be sleeping fully throughout the night. I have to say I've contacted Attraction Tickets to ask if it's possible to have a refund for Halloween Horror Nights, and they responded in like 20 minutes. It was so quick, and they were like they're going to put it through to Universal, and as soon as they get the refund through I should see it in my bank, which is amazing. So I can't believe how quick that service was, considering I'm sure so many people are contacting them because they do tickets for all the Orlando parks, they do holiday packages, hotels, things like that. So I'm sure a lot of people are in contact with them currently. So super impressed with that really, really quick service. Whew. So as you can see and hear, the storm has intensified quite a lot. It's probably half an hour since I did my last little video signing off for the night, and we've got quite a big thunderstorm happening at the same time, but just sheets of rain and the wind is howling, and a few times you feel the building shake, which is quite unnerving. Good morning! Hurricane Ian was in full force last night. It's now been downgraded to a tropical storm. It's definitely still very windy and raining, but not as intense as last night. But I thought I'd show you outside to show you some of the debris and branches that have come down, but I'm actually impressed that there's very minimal damage really. So they've obviously done a fantastic work of making sure everything is tied down and like trees are properly trimmed and stuff like that. So let's have a little look. So as you can see, the trees are still kind of blowing about a bit, and on the pathways there are some bits of debris, but really it's quite minimal, which is really impressive. Over here on this pathway it's a little bit more, but really not that much comparatively to what I thought would happen, so it's quite amazing. In the swimming pool on the far right you can see there are branches and bits of tree in the pool and in the lazy river, but honestly, I'm really impressed. I thought there'd be a lot more damage. So interestingly, I actually slept really well, which I was not expecting. I think the worst of the storm was probably about 2 a.m, but kind of slept through that. You could hear the same sort of noises all night, like you can hear the building creaking a bit and the wind gusts, but it was the kind of same all night. It didn't seem to get really intense at any moment and you woke up and you're like, what's happening? I've woken up and seen the news, and of course there's been massive destruction on the coasts. There's like actual houses floating down roads. It's unbelievable. So I think it's going to be quite a long process of being able to rebuild, and it must be very stressful. Hopefully the people have managed to evacuate, but to know what you're going back to must be horrific. So being in Central Florida is so lucky, because the worst of it had happened, so it was nowhere near as bad as anticipated here, but obviously on the coast it was much more intense than predicted. So I have been hearing from some other people who are currently in Orlando, and some of the people in the off-site hotels currently don't have any power. I'm very lucky that at Universal they seem to have backup generators. We've still got power, everything seems good. I've heard from some people in Disney resorts, and Disney seem to have been amazing. They've had characters out to meet, they've had activities all throughout the day. Restaurants have been open. They did shut in the evening obviously because of the bad weather, but you could buy snack packs and stuff to take to your room, and they've been giving regular updates via the TV of what you need to do, what the latest information is, what the advice is. So that's really good. I would say we're really lucky at Cabana Bay and at Universal because, like I say, you've still got power. Yesterday the restaurant was amazing, that they were working so hard. Honestly, they were working so quick because literally everyone was eating there, and I was so impressed. So big thank you to everyone. They did have some activities going on in the lobby for kids, but I would say there's not been much information. So on the first night, so I think that was on the Tuesday, there was an information kind of thing that came through like on a voicemail on the phone, just to say the parks are closed, the pools are closed, and the hotel's operating as usual. That's kind of vague. I was like, does that mean the restaurants are open? Does it not? Does it just mean that you can be in the hotel, it's not closing? Like, what does it mean? It was a bit vague. And they also didn't give you any advice regarding, can you go out? Can you not go out? When should you stay in? What should you do during the hurricane sort of thing? So I would have liked to have had a bit more information, but luckily I've been following like news channels, local weather reporters, stuff like that, and hopefully with common sense people knew, look, the weather looks bad, don't go outside. I think today I will be mostly in the room. I feel like the storm is still going on. It's a tropical storm now, so it's not as serious as a hurricane, but of course it's still very windy, very rainy, and where you have seen debris come off of the trees, you don't want to be walking around just in case you get hit by something, and that would never be any good. I think it'll be really interesting to see like the clean up, because like I said, I've been so impressed with how everything's been slick, like they've had everything locked down, they know what they're doing. So I feel like the cleanup process is something they've probably been prepared for, they know exactly what to do, and I feel like it'll be quite quick and snappy. It will be interesting to see if anything does open on Friday, but I would assume Friday would be the cleanup day, so I would imagine probably the weekend at the earliest. But we'll have a little see. So something I've been super impressed with is that even though I have an overseas phone number and I'm coming from the UK, I have been getting these updates from the National Weather Service. I think that's what it's called. And it was very dramatic when I was in the restaurant and everyone's phone was going off, and I was like, oh my God. But I've had quite a few of them the past few days letting you know what's going on. There's been a lot of flash flooding warnings for this area and telling you when that's in place for and that you shouldn't go out. So that has been amazing, that anyone in the area that has a phone, it will come through. Doesn't matter if you've got a foreign number, and I think that's really great because it just keeps you up to date. The resort, like I say, is faring quite well. I am seeing a lot of reports, and there is a lot of flooding in Orlando itself, so that has been an issue. Also, the Jurassic Park riverboat ride, there is a huge hole in the back. So either Ian's brought some of that building down or a dinosaur has escaped, one or the other, but I feel it is the storm. So there are damages like that. So of course I would predict tomorrow, which is Friday, that the theme parks will not be open because they will be needing to repair any damages and just check everything is safe. In Orlando there is quite a lot of problems with flooding, and then of course on the coastline there have been massive issues with whole homes being swept away. So I feel very lucky to have been here And apart from kind of it being windy and rainy and being indoors, you are absolutely safe. Everything's been so secure, really well run, so you're very, very, very thankful. This morning I also got a further email from Attraction Tickets just to let me know that my refund is being processed. So in 5 to 7 days you should have that refund, which I think is fantastic. It's Thursday morning, the event was meant to happen last night and they've already processed that. I think it's absolutely incredible, so really, really amazing service from them. So I've been watching some of the local news reports and they've just reported live from Kirkman, which is a road right near Universal, and the entire road and car park surrounding it is flooded. It must be about 4 foot deep, so it can be a bit deceiving that in the resort you could see like a little bit of debris from trees, and that's about it. The car parks here are all fine. It can be very deceptive because you're like, oh, actually it looks like we've come through this pretty well, and then you see the rest of Orlando and it's like, wow, there's actually a lot of flooding. This morning I've also had an email and text from Virgin, and I think, oh gosh, like, is this the flight being cancelled, what's happening? And it was just a regular message that they would send out just to let you know that there's no entry restrictions due to COVID back to the UK. So I was like, well, that's good news. Like, it's that thing of no news is good news sort of thing. So far, touch wood, I've been lucky. Everything seems to be okay for Saturday. Although it's not how you expected the trip to go, you're super lucky, you're safe, you're comfortable, the room has everything you need, and yeah, it's all going okay here. So I thought I would say some of the things I've learned having been through this that were quite handy. So one of the first things is to charge all your devices up. And if you have a power bank, charge that up. That way, if you do have a power cut, you will already have everything charged, and you will have a power bank available if you do need to recharge phones and things like that. Head to the supermarket in the days leading up to the storm. So we started hearing probably on the weekend that this could be coming. So I then, on the Monday when I changed resorts to Cabana Bay, I went over to a Publix to get some supplies. They had already run out of water, but I managed to get other drinks, snacks, non-perishable goods, so that if I was going to have to be staying in my room, I would have things to eat, and that has become so handy. With some hotels, the restaurants and stuff may stay open, but in case they don't, make sure you get your snacks and your drinks in advance. I have seen some people who've kind of left it until the day of the hurricane, the afternoon, and being like, where should we get stuff? And it's like loads of places are shut now, the hotels may be shutting their restaurants, so it's too late at that point. I would also say to make sure you follow the Facebook or Twitter accounts of the theme parks and the hotels that you're staying in, because they tend to use them as a way to put information across to you. You can find out their latest policies, when things are going to be open, what's operating, things like that. I would say follow the advice. If you're told to stay in your room, definitely stay in your room. It may be tempting to go out and experience it or take photos, things like that, but you are indoors for a reason. Firstly, so that you don't get hit by any debris or anything like that, but also you don't want to slip, fall, something happen, and then you need to go to the hospital. The hospitals already are needing to be kept free for people that absolutely need it. And also, because there's a lot of flooding, you might not be able to get there. Something a lot of Floridians had recommended to me is to follow Dennis Phillips. He is a weather reporter. He is someone a lot of people look to when it comes to hurricanes and tropical storms, and it's been great. He's been updating really regularly with what's going on, what to expect. So absolutely follow him. It has been perfect. Something that's always important to get, but particularly in this situation, is really great travel insurance. If for whatever reason you need to extend your trip, or your flights get cancelled, something happens, at least you have your insurance to fall back on, and then you should be able to reclaim some of the costs. So do check out their policies when it comes to extreme weather or hurricanes, just to see if you can get that covered. So on Tuesday evening, there was a voicemail on the answering machine of the phone in the room. So I think it's saved, so I thought I'd play it so you can get an idea of the type of updates that you were getting from Cabana Bay Hotel.
This is the message center.
Good evening. Your safety and well-being are our highest priority. As the storm approaches the Central Florida area, please be aware all Universal Orlando theme parks and City Walk will be closed Wednesday and Thursday. Halloween Horror Nights is canceled on these 2 nights. For the latest theme park updates, we encourage you to follow Universal Orlando on Twitter. All hotel pools are closed until further notice, and all guests must remain indoors during peak storm conditions. We will share hotel operation updates on our digital dining and activities guide. Please be aware that some hotel services may be temporarily suspended. We appreciate your understanding and cooperation.
Now, I've never been able to actually find out what this dining or what the channel that you were supposed to get the updates on. On the telly, they do have a channel for the resort, but it just kind of promotes what you can do here. There was no updates on that, so I've never actually been able to find that. If it's on the app, if it's on I don't know where it is. So I've never been able to find out what is happening and any updates, but the weather is starting to calm down now, so maybe later today, maybe in the evening, I might head over to the lobby area and just see what is going on over there. So the weather has calmed down significantly, so I'm going to have a little walk over to the lobby, see if anything's going on over there. It's very funny because in this building you're like, everything seems very calm and you don't really see anyone out and about, but I feel like the same thing yesterday, and then I went to the lobby and it was like hustle bustle and it was really, really lively. So I'm wondering if it's the same, because obviously if you're in the other buildings you can go out of your room, go to the lobby, stuff like that, even if it's just to have a change of scenery. So I'm going to have a little look over there now. So there is a tiny bit of rain at the moment, and as you can see there are things like fallen branches, but really pretty amazing how little damage there is. There are some tree fronds that have come down. But again, it's really impressive how well they've managed to secure everything in the property. So I have come back into the lobby, and again it is super buzzy, and it seems like lots of people are able to come in. So lots of people got the same idea, great. And the canteen is still open. So I might go and get a meal again whilst I'm here. So I was in the queue for a little while for the grill, and then once I got to the section where you could see the menu, today they're actually running limited menus, which totally makes sense. So the only vegan option now is the mindful wrap, so I'm queuing up for that at the deli, and I'm going to give that a go. So as you can see on the pathway there are some like low-hanging leaves, and on the path there are some leaves, some palm fronds, but really we fared very, very well. So I was super impressed again that the restaurant was operating. Today it has a more limited menu, which absolutely makes sense, and it was still really, really brilliant for all the staff to be there, especially now because you don't know if there has been damage or flooding to your property, and also how they may get home eventually because there is still a lot of flooding everywhere. So it's now about 4 p.m. and there were already actually team members outside starting the clean up, which I'm so impressed with. So as I say, it's mostly debris from trees. It looks like some of the pool has already started to be cleaned up. Part of the Hulk roller coaster is underwater, and obviously you've got that big hole in the side of Jurassic Park Riverboat Journey. Is that what it's called? So there is some damage. So I should imagine that Universal will not be open tomorrow. Disney World have announced that they are going to be reopening. It's going to be a phased reopening. So not everything will be open. You'll just have to see what will be available. So waiting for some updates from Universal. I think it's been so impressive to see how it's just almost like seamless. Like, okay, we're going to do this, but this is how we do it. This is how we do it. Like, they've got it down to a T. And it's so, so impressive to see just how they respond, and they respond so, so quickly. Just everyone's so thankful for everyone working so, so hard. It would be totally understandable if they said all the restaurants are shut, everything's shutting, because of course those people want to be at their homes, securing them, making sure themselves and their families and pets and everyone are safe. So it's so incredible that people actually stay, they carry on working, they're trying to help everyone that's staying at this hotel and all of the other hotels around Orlando. So it is so, so appreciated, because it's such a difficult time, such a stressful time, and the fact that people are still helping others during that is amazing. Good morning! Last night we did have an update from Universal to say that Universal will be open for resort guests today. Since then there's been no updates, there's been no information on opening hours, things like that. I don't think it is going to open. I think if it was going to open they would have given us information by now. Having seen the images of like Hulk underwater and things like that, I can't see how any of it will be open, if I'm honest. I have seen on social media some people say that this morning they've gone over to City Walk to try to go to City Walk or the parks, and security have turned them away and said it's not open. It would be good if Universal would give an update, I think, because kind of last night at 6 o'clock they were like, oh, it'll be open, and we'll let you know the hours, and then they've never given any updates. And I think realistically no one was expecting it to be open because there's a lot of flooding, and not only is that an issue, of course their cast members, their team members will have possibly been impacted, their homes may have been damaged, they may be flooded in, they can't get there, so of course there will be no way for them to get to the parks. It'll be interesting to see if there are any updates later, but I would say it's difficult not having the information, but you can also understand that it's a constantly evolving situation, so they're probably working really hard behind the scenes, working out, can we open, can we not open. So now it has stopped raining altogether, I thought I'd take a little walk around the resort and just have a look to see how it is faring. And also I haven't really looked around the resort properly. So over in the lazy river you can see some debris that is in here. So I was just talking to someone and they were saying that the cleanup process is actually very quick, even getting rid of the flooding is very quick because they have amazing drainage systems, and they think probably by 6 p.m. tonight most things will go back to normal, which is so incredibly impressive. So it's actually nice just to get out and about and be walking around. There's a lot more people outside now. I think everyone's doing the same, stretching their legs, being out in the sun. As you can see, there is just one tree that seems to have come down, but apart from that everything else is still standing. And on the pathways there is a little bit of debris, and every now and then you'll see palm frond, but apart from that everything is a-okay, which is fantastic news. So it's about 11 a.m. now. There's still no update from Universal about if anything may open. I do know Disney is open. Now obviously I don't have park tickets for Disney, but you do wonder, instead of just sat in the hotel room, do you maybe go over to Disney Springs? So I have decided to see if I can make it over to Disney Springs, just to see if there's things to do over there, restaurants. Hopefully if you are able to go out, maybe it will take pressure off of the hotel because they're not having to try and feed so many people. So I've come over to Disney Springs. The drive over here was super simple. It's about 15 minutes and everything was totally clear. If you were not aware that there'd been a hurricane, you would not have any clue. The cleanup has obviously been incredible. So I think I'm going to go and find some lunch first and then just have a look around Disney Springs. It's so nice to be out and about again. So I am here at Deluxe Burger ready for some lunch. It was so good the other day, so I'm so glad to be back. It's just so nice to be outside. I'm like, oh, after like 2.5 days indoors, it's so lovely to be out and about. So I've looked in all the shops that I wanted to. There has been an update that Universal's going to be open to everyone from tomorrow. So I don't know if there's any information about if it is open to resort guests today. I haven't seen it officially from Universal, I've just seen it on other Facebook pages, so I'm going to have a little look, and maybe when I get back, if the park's open, we can hop over to Universal. So I'm now back at the hotel. Whilst I was leaving Disney Springs, Universal announced that City Walk and Volcano Bay are both now open, and the theme parks will open tomorrow. Tonight I might go over to City Walk and have a little look around and get some dinner there. The hotel swimming pool has also reopened, and again it looks so inviting, but I just do not think my things would dry in time. So, what to do? The holiday's coming to an end, and obviously it's had an unexpected ending and your plans have changed a little bit, but actually I've still managed to do pretty much everything I wanted to do, which is fantastic. I was not expecting anything to be happening today, so it has been nice to go to Disney Springs and then pop over to City Walk later. So now I am now back off out. The pathways have all been cleared, so it's incredible in this space. Oh, there's a cat in the window, look. Oh my god, look at this girl. He's so cute. Hello baby. Little cat in the window. Hello cat. So I am now off out again. I keep seeing everyone by the pool from my window and I'm like, oh, I wish I'd gone. But I also know I would have been really stressed about everything drying in time because we don't have much time. So it's one of those things. It is what it is. I'm going to head to the bus stop now and go over to City Walk and see what is there, what we can eat. So should be a good time. So on that Friday, I was able to go to Disney Springs and City Walk. It was so nice to be out and about getting some food, and I even went to the cinema at City Walk. I was so impressed at how quickly things get cleaned up. Being from the UK, if this were to happen here, it would take weeks, and we just are never prepared for anything. So I could not believe the speed and just how planned out everything was and how prepared everything was. So I could not have been more impressed and thankful for everyone working so hard to sort everything out so quickly. So now I'm going to answer some questions that I've had sent from you, so thank you so much. They're really good questions because they're also things that I was thinking about whilst going through Hurricane Ian, so let's answer them now. The main question I got was, can you get food and drinks? And I think this kind of depends where you are staying. So having been someone who's watched Florida vlogs for many years and seen a lot of local Floridians, as soon as I started to hear a hurricane could be coming, I'd already decided that I was going to go and get some supplies just in case I couldn't leave my room. I think this is always the best option. It's better to kind of be prepared, and then you have snacks that you can have throughout your trip. If you don't need them, at least you can still eat them, but it's always better to have something with you just in case you can't go out. Some hotels, like mine, were able to keep their restaurants open, which is absolutely amazing. It was fantastic that they did that, and thank you so much to all the staff because it was so appreciated. I do know some other hotels may have to shut down their restaurants, and it may be cases of things like if you are in hotels where there is a restaurant that is separate from the buildings, that they don't want people to be going out because of the weather conditions. So sometimes you may not be able to get to the restaurant, which is why it's great to have supplies with you. When I went to the local supermarket, they had lots of everything. The only thing they were running low on was water, and I think that is to be expected because all the Floridians also put in their hurricane preparation plans. So that was the only thing, but I managed to get vitamin water and that worked out fine. So the simple answer is, it really depends on where you're staying. If you are staying at a hotel, particularly in Disney and Universal, they tend to try and keep restaurants open. Some of the off-site hotels may also do the same, but their restaurants may close. And of course, if you're in a villa, you will need to stock up in advance. But I'd say no matter where you're staying, make sure you go and get food and drinks, non-perishable items, and things like that, just so you're prepared in case the worst happens and you do have to stay in your room and you can't go out. The next question I had is, what did you do when the parks were closed? And the interesting thing was, even though you were just in your room, the time went very fast, and I wasn't even really doing anything in particular. But I think because you've got all this nervous energy about what's it going to be like, you're just constantly like looking out the window, checking the news, going on social media, so the time went very fast. Luckily for me, when the weather wasn't too bad, I was able to go into the lobby area, and they were having activities for kids. So if you're a family visiting, the hotels, particularly Disney and Universal, will try and do things to keep them entertained. I would say Disney are really famous for this. When I've seen previous hurricanes, they've always gone above and beyond and had characters, activities, things like that. In my hotel at Cabana Bay, they still had Starbucks open, the shops open, the bowling alley was open, so anything in the main building was still operating, which was fantastic. So people did have places to go, they didn't have to stay in their rooms, and there were things for them to do. But for me, I just stayed in my room, and like I say, I don't really know why the time went very quickly because I wasn't particularly doing anything, but it did fly past, and I think that's a lot to do with the fact that I was on social media a lot. So thank you to every single person who sent me messages. It was so kind and really appreciated and really helped me get through this experience. And this is the big question that I think most people will have, and that is, did you get any compensation for the tickets that you didn't manage to use? And the great thing was that for Universal, I had tickets for Halloween Horror Nights that I'd bought through Attraction Tickets, and as you saw, Attraction Tickets responded very quickly, and in fact a few days later the money was already in my bank account, so they refunded that super fast. I did then contact them about my tickets because I had bought 14-day tickets for Universal and only went in for 1 day. Now they told me that they hadn't actually been given any official policies or advice from Universal, but they did give me Universal's contact details. So I emailed Universal, and about a week or so later I received an email back, and Universal have very kindly said, if you send over your ticket number and your address and telephone number, then what we will do is we will have a ticket on standby so that anytime you visit Universal in the future, it's completely undated. So it could be anytime in the future, I'll be able to get a ticket to go back into Universal for free, which I think is absolutely fantastic. And it's just such great customer service, and the fact that it's undated is perfect, particularly coming from the UK when you don't know if you will be able to go as frequently. I do know that Disney extended tickets for the 2 days that they were closed, but they have to be used before the 30th of September 2023. So this might not be ideal if you aren't going back within the next year to Disney. But I have to say, I've been super impressed with the customer service at Universal. I think it was amazing to be able to offer you extra days, because I just assumed because you'd used your tickets, there's probably nothing you could do about it. But that'll be a great big help for when I go, and the fact that it's undated is absolutely incredible. So my overall thoughts, the experience itself was not as terrifying or as bad as expected. I think in Orlando we were very lucky. It was a category 1, so of course it was nowhere near as severe as on the coasts, and the hotels were just really well prepared. I felt totally safe and comfortable, and the fact that they managed to keep the hotel operating was amazing. I'm also really thankful to all the locals that I spoke to who gave me an idea of what it would be like, and I think that helped massively, because you're going into it knowing you don't need to panic, this is what will happen. Power might go out, but you're staying in a hotel, they'll have generators. They were just so helpful, and to let me know to follow people like Dennis Phillips, so you were getting the latest information, and that was so helpful. I was also super impressed with seeing on that Tuesday how at Universal they were already tying things down and getting things prepared, and then how quickly things reopened. It was so impressive, because we just would not have that here in the UK. It does not happen, and it was unbelievably fast. Something I heard from a lot of people was, oh, you probably won't go back in September again. And actually, I definitely still would. September is my favourite month to go to Orlando, because you have great weather, it's a cheaper time of year, it's also a quieter time of year, and the chances of a hurricane are always possible, but it's not likely. And typically hurricanes do go up the coasts rather than across Florida, so it is unusual that Orlando itself would be hit. But that being said, the experience I had was fantastic. All of the staff were amazing. I felt totally safe. The hotel could not have been better, so it definitely wouldn't put me off. Although my holiday didn't end the way I anticipated, I felt very lucky to be where I was and had the experience that I had, because it could have been so much worse. And I know other people had hotels that had some flooding and power outages, stuff like that. So I was so thankful to be at Cabana Bay, and they were excellent. I could not fault them. It was amazing. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it's helpful in helping you know what it's like to be in Orlando during a hurricane, what you could expect, and just in the off chance you were ever in this situation, you have a better idea of what your experience may be like. At the moment, my September solo trip to Disney World and Universal vlog series is currently running. So if you do like seeing vlogs of people's trips to Disney World, Disneyland Paris, and also planning videos about those destinations, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I hope you have a most magical day. Bye bye.